Child's Play, 1988, wasn't just a killer doll movie. It was a pressure cooker of clashing visions, technical chaos, and creative risks that nearly collapsed under their own weight. What audiences didn't know was how often this film almost broke mechanically, emotionally, and narratively. Animatronics failed, performances shifted, endings changed. In this video, we're revealing 20 hidden, weird, and unsettling facts about Child's Play details buried in production logs, cutscenes, and studio decisions. And stay to the end, because the final fact exposes how the movie's ending was quietly reshaped in ways most fans never noticed. Now hit play. Let's pull the string. Fact number 1. The doll was never meant to walk this much. It looks effortless on screen. Chucky moves, stalks, and attacks with unnerving confidence, but behind the scenes, the doll almost couldn't function at all. Early animatronic versions were unstable, slow, and prone to failure. Each movement required multiple operators working in tight coordination. What audiences didn't know is that entire shooting days collapsed when Chucky simply stopped responding. Not paused, not delayed. Dead. Crews waited hours while technicians repaired tiny motors hidden inside the doll's frame. The illusion of life depended on absolute precision. It wasn't a simple prop. It was a fragile machine pretending to be alive. And every time it worked, it felt like luck, not design. Fact number 2. The studio feared the movie was accidentally funny. From the start, executives worried the film leaned too far toward humor. A doll attacking adults risked crossing into parody. Early cuts confirmed their fear. Test audiences laughed at moments meant to terrify. What followed was a quiet recalibration. Scenes were tightened, music cues were altered, reaction shots were trimmed, not rewritten but restrained. It wasn't about changing the story, it was about changing tone. The goal became precision fear, not camp, not exaggeration. What audiences see now is a carefully balanced version, one shaped as much by fear of laughter as fear itself. Fact number 3. Brad Dourif's voice was added later and changed everything. Chucky didn't sound like that at first. Early recordings leaned flatter, more restrained, but something felt wrong. The doll moved like a predator, yet sounded distant. Brad Dourif returned to the booth and rewired the performance. He sharpened the cadence, added rhythm, pushed anger closer to the surface. What audiences didn't know is that Chucky's personality was found in post-production. The voice didn't just match the doll, it defined it. Not a toy speaking, a man trapped, furious, calculating, alive. Fact number 4. Multiple Chucky dolls were used and none looked identical. There was no single Chucky. There were many. Some built for close-ups, others for wide shots, others designed to be thrown, dragged, or destroyed. The problem? They didn't match perfectly. Subtle differences in facial structure, eye alignment, and mouth shape created continuity headaches. Editors worked carefully to hide transitions. What audiences didn't know is that Chucky's face subtly changes throughout the film. Not intentionally, but inevitably. It wasn't one monster, it was a rotating cast of nearly identical nightmares. Fact number 5. Child actors were shielded from the darkest material. The production made a deliberate choice. Young performers were never shown the full context of certain scenes. Dialogue was simplified, explanations softened. What audiences didn't know is that reactions were often filmed without the doll performing its final version. Fear was implied, not demonstrated, not deception, but protection. The result is something strange and powerful, a child's fear that feels real without understanding why. Fact number 6. Practical effects. Forced scenes to be rewritten on set. If a mechanism failed, the script adapted. Not tomorrow, immediately. Chucky couldn't always perform what was written, so scenes shifted. Camera angles changed. Movement was implied instead of shown. What audiences didn't know is that some of the film's most suspenseful moments exist because the effects failed. Less movement created more tension. Not excess, but restraint. Born from necessity. Fact number 7. The film quietly redefined toy horror. Before Child's Play, Toy-based fear was often stylized or symbolic. This film changed the rules. Chucky wasn't magical, he was mechanical, calculated, violent. What audiences didn't know is that the film triggered real concern among toy companies. The line between fantasy and consumer culture suddenly felt unstable. It wasn't just entertainment, it was disruption. Fact number 8. Andy's apartment was designed to feel like a trap. The apartment isn't cozy, it's narrow, boxed, confined. Production designers intentionally limited open space. Hallways tighten, rooms close in. What audiences didn't know is that the set was built to make escape feel impossible. Even before Chucky moves, the environment presses inward. The danger isn't just the doll, it's the space around him. Fact number 9. Early cuts explained too much and lost power. Initial versions clarified everything: the rules, the logic, the transformation. It didn't work. What audiences didn't know is that mystery was restored by subtraction. Explanations were trimmed. Gaps were left open. Not confusion, but unease. The unknown became part of the threat. Fact number 10. This is where the movie quietly changes gears. Halfway through, Child's Play stops being about disbelief and becomes about inevitability. What audiences didn't know is that this shift was carefully engineered in editing. Pacing tightens, cuts shorten, reaction shots disappear. This is also where fans usually lean in, so go ahead and like and subscribe, because from this point forward, the film stops asking if Chucky is dangerous and starts showing what happens when no one can stop him. Fact number 11. The police perspective was intentionally frustrating. Authority figures don't help. They question. They delay. They misread every warning sign. That frustration isn't sloppy writing, it's structural design. What audiences didn't know is that the script deliberately frames disbelief as a threat equal to Chucky himself. Every moment the police hesitate, the danger escalates. This isn't incompetence, it's realism. Institutions don't move fast, they demand proof. And proof comes too late. By keeping law enforcement distant and skeptical, the film traps its characters in isolation. No backup, no validation. Fear grows strongest when no one listens, and Child's Play weaponizes that silence. The horror doesn't just come from the doll, it comes from being ignored. Fact number 12. The doll's physical decay was carefully tracked. Chucky doesn't stay the same. As the film progresses, something changes. His face tightens, his movements sharpen, his presence feels heavier. What audiences didn't know is that this transformation was carefully planned. Multiple doll versions were staged to reflect an internal shift taking place beneath the surface. This wasn't random wear or damage from action scenes. It was narrative progression. Each alteration marks a step away from innocence and closer to something fully formed. Not just a toy behaving badly, but a being shedding its disguise. The decay isn't cosmetic, it's symbolic. Chucky isn't breaking down, he's becoming something else entirely. Fact number 13. Silence is used as a weapon. The score doesn't always tell you what to feel. Sometimes it disappears completely. What audiences didn't know is that these moments of silence were chosen with surgical intent. When music vanishes, attention sharpens, breathing becomes louder, space feels thinner. There's no cue to prepare you, no signal that danger is coming, just anticipation stretching until it hurts. This restraint turns ordinary moments into pressure points. Silence forces the viewer to lean forward, to scan the frame for movement. It's not the sound that scares, it's the absence of it. And in Child's Play, silence doesn't calm. It waits. Fact number 14. Chucky's size was a constant problem. Chucky's small size is the source of his terror, but also the production's biggest challenge. Making a small figure feel threatening requires constant adjustment. What audiences didn't know is that cinematography had to be redesigned to compensate. Camera angles were lowered, lenses were chosen to exaggerate movement, empty space around the doll was minimized. Every frame worked to make small actions feel deliberate and dangerous. Scale becomes perception. The camera teaches you how to fear him, not by showing strength, but by controlling perspective. Chucky isn't big, he just always feels closer than he should be. Fact number 15. Test audiences influenced character reactions. Early test screenings revealed a problem. Viewers sympathized too quickly. They believed Andy too soon. That reduced tension. So the film was rebalanced. Scenes were reshaped to extend skepticism. Doubt lingered longer. What audiences didn't know is that this hesitation wasn't filler. It was fuel. Every moment of disbelief increases the cost of truth. Characters miss chances to act. Danger moves unchecked. The delay isn't frustrating by accident. It's deliberate pressure. By stretching disbelief, the film makes the eventual realization hit harder. Fear doesn't explode. It accumulates. And when belief finally arrives, it's already too late. Fact number 16. The film avoids easy closure. Child's Play refuses comfort. Problems don't vanish. Trauma doesn't reset. What audiences didn't know is that this lack of closure was intentional. The story rejects the idea that survival equals safety. Even after the threat is confronted, damage remains. Trust is broken. Innocence is altered. The film doesn't tidy its ending with reassurance. It lets consequences linger. This choice gives the story weight beyond its final scene. The danger may stop, but the impact doesn't. That unresolved feeling stays with the viewer. Fear doesn't end cleanly. It leaves a mark. And the film is honest enough to let it show. Fact number 17. Lighting choices shift as reality sets in. At the beginning, the film feels warmer, softer, familiar. As events unfold, that warmth fades. What audiences didn't know is that lighting was carefully adjusted to reflect belief setting in. Early scenes glow with comfort and normalcy. Later scenes flatten into harsher tones. Shadows spread, colors dull, the environment becomes less forgiving. This shift mirrors the character's internal journey. Doubt drains away, replaced by certainty, and certainty is terrifying. The world no longer feels safe because it no longer pretends to be. Lighting doesn't just shape mood here, it tracks acceptance. Fear replaces disbelief, frame by frame. Fact number 18. Chucky's perspective is rare but strategic. The camera rarely sees the world through Chucky's eyes. When it does, it's brief, controlled, intentional. What audiences didn't know is that this restraint preserves fear. Too much alignment would humanize him. Too much familiarity would weaken menace. By keeping his perspective limited, the film maintains distance. He remains unreadable, unpredictable. The viewer is never allowed to settle into his rhythm. Those rare perspective shots act like punctuation sharp and unsettling before snapping back to distance. Not empathy, but intrusion. Chucky isn't your guide through the story. He's an interruption, and that's exactly why he works. Fact number 19. The film's legacy wasn't immediate. When Child's Play first arrived, reactions were split. Some dismissed it, others underestimated it. What audiences didn't know is that its reputation grew quietly over time. As years passed, viewers began to notice the craft, the restraint, the control, the precision behind the fear. It wasn't a loud success, it was a durable one. The film endured because its mechanics held up. Practical effects aged with dignity. Performances remained grounded. Its influence spread slowly, not through spectacle, but consistency. Not a shock that faded, but a slow burn that refused to disappear. And that endurance became its legacy. Fact number 20. The ending you saw wasn't the only one considered. The final act went through multiple revisions, different beats, different emphasis. What audiences didn't know is that earlier versions leaned heavier into explanation. The released ending chooses impact instead. It doesn't overstay. It strikes and stops. Not comfort, not relief, just the unsettling sense that something unnatural was unleashed and barely contained. Child's Play endures not because of what it shows, but because of what it withholds. Control shaped chaos, restraint sharpened fear. If this video revealed something you never noticed before, let us know in the comments, and remember, some toys don't stay where you leave them.